Beware of the empath with no friends. You read the situation incorrectly. You mistook absence for failure. That was your first error. What you're actually seeing is someone who closed access. You interpreted silence as emptiness. You labeled distance as collapse. You expected a return. There won't be one. The version that responded, reassured, and absorbed is no longer operational. That system was decommissioned the moment availability stopped being free. You're noticing it already. The cues fail. The leverage is missing. The feedback loop is dead. This isn't healing. It's recalibration. And what unsettles you is not their silence. It's the fact that your attention is no longer required. That is when the dynamic collapses. The strategic withdrawal. This did not begin as a wound. It began as an audit, a cold internal accounting of the emotional economy that had been living in. Their solitude is not an accident. It is a correction. There is a common fantasy that people withdraw because they are too fragile for the world, that they cannot handle connection. This is a story the connected tell themselves to feel safe, to feel strong. It is a lie. No human being with a nervous system built to absorb the nuances of a room simply walks away from the feed without a reason. The reason is not fragility, it is efficiency. They have run the numbers. For most of their life, they operated without an emotional firewall. In a conversation, you exchanged words. They processed context, history, subtext, and unspoken obligation. You left a room. They carried the atmospheric pressure of it for days. It was not a gift, it was a liability. What you call their sensitivity was, for them, a constant data stream with no off switch, a psychic open bar where everyone drank, and they were left with the tab. The body has limits. A system can only run at a deficit for so long before it initiates a protocol. Their withdrawal is that protocol. You see someone avoiding life. But look closer, you are seeing someone who has stopped investing into a bankrupt enterprise. Every interaction was a transaction where they were the sole liquidity provider. They have closed the bank. This is the first miscalculation you make. You see their solitude and feel pity. You assume a vacuum that needs to be filled. You project your own fear of silence onto their state of silence. But they are not in silence. They are in recalibration. When you approach them with the noise of connection, you are not offering a lifeline. You are broadcasting on a frequency they have deliberately jammed. You are trying to sell water to someone who has finally found the source of their own well. They have turned the volume of the world down, not because they cannot hear it, but because they have finally decided to listen to something else. The signal of the self. This is not avoidance. It is acquisition. The ledger. The history of the empath is not one of kindness. It is one of bad debt. They did not give. They leaked. They were a system with faulty borders, and everyone who passed through took something. Not with malice, but with the casual entitlement of a person walking through an open door. Their giving was not virtue. It was a reflex, a flinch, a conditioned response to the presence of need. If you are in pain, I must absorb it to be safe, to be loved, to be real. They were the emotional utility for their family, their friends, their partners. The stable one, the listener, the absorber. Their worth became tethered to their usefulness. Their identity became a function, to soothe. This created a catastrophic economic imbalance. Every yes when they meant no was a withdrawal from their own account. Every hour spent holding space for a drama that wasn't theirs was an investment with zero return. Every time they swallowed their truth to keep your peace, they took a loan against their own integrity. The psyche keeps a ledger. It is merciless. There is a physical sensation to this. The heavy dread when the phone rings. The hollow ache after a gathering. That isn't fatigue. That is the body's report on an economic loss. A transaction where they paid in life force and received a receipt that read obligation. Then one day, The balance hits zero. The account is frozen. The mechanism of giving breaks, not out of anger but out of insolvency. They have nothing left to trade. This is when they disappear. People call it a change. You're different. What they mean is, the utility I relied on has gone offline. But the empath hasn't changed. They have simply stopped honoring bad debt. The withdrawal you witness is not an emotional reaction. It is a forensic one. They are auditing the books. They are calling in every ounce of energy they lent out. They look at their phone and no longer see connection. They see outstanding invoices. To keep the old friends would be to return to a role they have been liquidated from. They have learned that in those relationships, they were the commodity, the product. Friendship for them is no longer a question of affection. It is a question of terms. The old terms were predatory. The new terms are non-negotiable. The integrated edge. You perceive the empath loner as soft, as harmless. This is your most dangerous oversight. What you are seeing is not softness, it is precision. The calm is not from an absence of darkness, but from having fully mapped it. They have not become purer. They have become complete. They have integrated their shadow. For you, the shadow might be violence or greed. For them, the shadow was always their own no, their capacity for coldness, for indifference, for walking away without a backward glance. For years, they exiled this part. They believed it made them a monster. They policed every selfish impulse, every spark of resentment, every desire to say, "Your problem is not my concern." But you cannot exile a part of yourself forever. The resentment built, the coldness seeped through, the fantasies of abandonment grew vivid. The breakthrough was not in defeating these feelings, it was in recognizing them as intelligence. The resentment was not a flaw, it was a boundary alarm. The coldness was not a failure of heart, it was a success of self-preservation. When they integrated this shadow, a shift occurred. They are no longer harmless. A harmless person cannot hurt you. A sovereign person can, but chooses not to. That choose not to is the source of their power. The integrated empath can cut you off. They can watch you drown in a consequence they warned you about. They can receive your accusation of selfishness and reply internally, "Yes, I am, finally." This integration neutralizes the primary currency of social manipulation, guilt. Manipulation works by threatening your self-image. "I thought you were kind." "You're so selfish." These are hooks that only catch if you are terrified of your own shadow. The integrated empath has already accepted their selfishness. They have made peace with their own capacity for coldness. Your hooks have nothing to grab. When you say, "You've changed," they do not scramble to explain. They agree. The change is the point. When you deploy guilt, they feel it not as a command, but as data about your own strategies. They become a wall that nothing sticks to. This is where they become unmanageable, not because they fight, but because they cease to react. They offer no resistance, they offer absence. And in a social game built on reaction, the person who does not react holds all the power. They have made themselves immune by accepting the very things you would use to condemn them. Your discomfort is the data. You find their presence unsettling. It feels heavy. It feels like a judgment. It is. Your discomfort is not caused by what they are doing. It is caused by what they have stopped doing. They have stopped participating in the mutual hallucination that keeps you comfortable. Most human interaction is a trait of validation. You project an image and I reflect it back. You tell a story where you are the hero and I agree. You state an opinion and I nod to show we are the same. This is how we keep the void at bay. We use each other as mirrors to confirm we exist. The empath loner has stopped being a mirror. When you stand before them, you project your self-image. They do not catch it. The projection falls to the floor and you are left standing there exposed with your own unmet need. Their neutrality feels like violence. Their silence feels like an accusation. Because it is. It is an accusation of the falseness you brought to them. You feel this and scramble. You talk more, you share more, you try to provoke a reaction, anger, pity, agreement, anything to pull them back into the game where you know the rules. They do not pick up the game piece. In that static, your own mind fills the silence. If you are insecure, you perceive their calm as arrogance. If you are guilty, you perceive it as condemnation. If you are needy, you perceive it as rejection. You are not seeing them. You are seeing your own reflection in the blank screen of their presence. This is why they are labeled cold, arrogant, distant. The labels are not descriptions. They are defenses. It is easier to diagnose the loner as broken than to face the truth their silence reveals about your own hunger. They know this. They have seen it 100 times. They know that their refusal to perform need is registered as an attack, because in a system built on dependency, sovereignty is a threat. They keep no friends because they are done with the performance. To have friends, they would have to start mirroring again. They would have to pretend the small things are big and the big things don't hurt. They are no longer willing to pay that entry fee. They would rather have your discomfort than your false comfort. The threshold. There is a point of no return, not a feeling, but a line. Once crossed, the internal geography changes forever. Before this line, the governing principle was connection. After this line, the governing principle is integrity. This is a shift from a relational economy to a truth economy. For decades, their system operated on reflex. Feel first, think later. Empathize first, discern later. This was the age of merger, of osmosis. The pain of that system, the sheer financial loss of it, forces an upgrade. A new function comes online, the gatekeeper. Now, the sequence flips. Think first, then choose whether to feel. When an old friend calls, the old wiring sparks. The urge to open, to console, to fix. But now, there is a pause. In that pause, a single, ruthless question forms. Is this true? Is this request true, or is it merely habitual? Is this person's crisis genuine, or is it a recurring performance? Is my involvement necessary, or is it merely expected? This question is a kill switch for the old way of being. It means access to them is no longer public property. It is now a private estate with gates. They stop volunteering. They stop fixing. They stop explaining. They realize that much of their help was not aid, it was interference. It robbed people of their own confrontation with reality. They step back. They let people fail. They let people sit in the mess they made. This is the crossing. It is the moment they realize their primary duty is not to your emotional comfort, but to their own structural integrity. Past this line, your old tactics dissolve. The leverage of history, we've been friends for 10 years, becomes irrelevant. They see that history is not an obligation. It is often a record of their own compliance. The leverage of guilt, I need you right now, becomes data. They hear it not as a cry for help, but as a sample of your operational style. Is this a genuine need or a demand for regulation? They develop a clinical detachment. They can see the mechanism inside the plea. They can see the hook inside the bait. This makes casual friendship impossible. Casual friendship requires a mutual agreement to overlook, to pretend, to validate the small hypocrisies. They refuse the agreement. They have developed a kind of social X-ray vision. They see the microtransaction in every interaction. The subtle interruption that says, my voice is more important. The question that is not a question, but a monologue waiting to happen. In the past, they would have ignored these red flags to preserve the connection. Now, they treat them as terminal data. They cannot unsee it. They have accepted the burden of seeing clearly, and clear vision is incompatible with the fog of ordinary social contracts. The final calculation. The empath loner does not drift into solitude. They are deposited there by logic. This is not an emotional outcome. It is a computational one. Their psyche as a pattern recognition system has completed its analysis. The data set from a lifetime of connection is vast, consistent, and damning. The pattern is clear. Engagement equals depletion. Every open door led to a loss. Every new person was a cost center. This is not a bitter conclusion. It is the conclusion the evidence demands. If you touch fire and get burned 100 times, you stop touching fire. This is not trauma. This is learning. They now operate on a principle of energetic frugality. Attention is capital. Emotional availability is a finite resource. They have none left to waste. When they evaluate a potential connection, it is not with hope. It is with a cost-benefit analysis. How much explaining will this require? How much of my reality will I have to hide? How much of their instability will I be expected to absorb? The math never works. The investment is always a net loss. They have identified the core mechanic of most modern bonds: extraction. People connect to extract validation, distraction, stability, or drama. They use each other as external regulators for their own nervous systems. The empath refuses to be the raw material for someone else's stability. This refusal extends to tempo. The modern world operates on urgency, immediate replies, instant availability. The empath operates on a different clock. Their internal rhythm is slower, deeper. Your urgency feels to them like a violation, a demand to hemorrhage their attention on your schedule. To protect that rhythm, they sever the connection. They have read the fine print of the social contract, the unwritten rules of consistency, predictability, and mutual ego-stroking, and they have declined to sign. Their choice is often mistaken for arrogance. You think they believe they are too good for friendship. It is the opposite. It is an act of profound humility. They know their own limits. They know that if they let you in, the old software will try to run. They will start absorbing, fixing, managing. They have not deleted that code. They have quarantined it. The only way to ensure they do not lose themselves in you is to keep you at a distance. It is a protective measure. They are saving themselves from depletion, and they are saving you from the inevitable severance that would come when that depletion is complete. They keep no friends because they are waiting for a connection that does not yet exist in their world. A connection of parallel presence. Two sovereign entities side by side. No merging, no pulling, no demands. Like two trees, separate roots, separate trunks, touching only when the wind blows. Since this is nearly impossible to find, they choose the viable alternative, a contained and complete solitude. The gravity of the contained. When the withdrawal is complete, a new quality emerges. Density, a specific gravity. You feel it near them. They are not light or eager. They are solid, contained. This power does not dominate. It negates. It negates your illusions by refusing to participate in them. When someone no longer needs your approval, your validation, your agreement, the entire scaffolding of a normal interaction collapses. You feel unmoored. For most people, socializing is a process of energy discharge, talking to release tension, seeking eye contact for confirmation, fishing for a compliment. They leak themselves into the space around them. The integrated empath has sealed the leaks. They have mastered containment, the ability to feel an internal storm and not act it out, not express it, not make it your problem. Their power manifests as non-reaction. You try to provoke them with sadness, with anger, with drama, and you meet a wall of neutrality, not ignorance, a conscious, chosen neutrality. Your emotional state does not cross the border into their nervous system. This creates a vacuum. Social dynamics rely on escalation and matching. You shout, I shout back. You cry, I comfort. This is the trade. They break the trade. They remain at their baseline. You are left holding your own chaotic energy with no one to absorb it or reflect it. You are forced to confront the noise you brought. In any interaction, power belongs to the person who needs less. The empath loner needs nothing from you. Not your understanding, not your liking, not your agreement. They have already accepted every part of themselves you might judge. Your judgment has nowhere to land. You cannot bribe someone who is already content. You cannot threaten someone who is not afraid of losing you. This makes them unmanageable. In a family, a workplace, a social circle, the unmanageable person is granted a silent authority, not the authority of title, but the authority of reality. They have become real in a way the performers around them are not. They speak less, so their words carry more weight. They do not explain, so their position is immovable. They move slowly, so their attention becomes a scarce commodity. People mistake this for arrogance. It is not. It is the absence of insecurity. They no longer look to you to tell them who they are. They have become a closed system, a hermetic seal. They can sit in a room of chaos and remain at peace. This does not mean they do not feel. It means they choose what to feel and for whom. Their empathy is no longer a public utility. It is a private reserve deployed with discretion. They will sit with genuine grief. They will not sit with rehearsed complaint. This discernment is their blade. It cuts away the false. It protects the sanctity of what is real inside them. The quiet power of the empath loner is the power of someone who has survived the death of their own dependency. They have faced the terror of being truly alone and discovered it was not terror, it was clarity. They have traded the fiction of the crowd for the truth of the self. Conclusion. So we return to the warning. Beware of the empath with no friends. Not because they failed, but because they disengaged. Their absence is not passive. It's intentional. They didn't disappear because they failed at connection. They disappeared because they understood it. They exited the exchange. They stopped pricing themselves for acceptance. They stopped responding to signals that once controlled them. And if this triggers unease, if something in you tightens when you realize you no longer have access, that reaction is the point. Because a person who does not require your recognition removes your position in the equation. If you recognize yourself in this, understand something quietly and without ceremony. The previous role has been sunset. Once you stop feeding the system that feeds on you, you don't go back inside it. Some silences are not voids. They are closed systems. And once that line is crossed, interaction simplifies. Noise disappears.